So this here is a painting video on how to paint Khorne Berzerkers, and as you can see, they're not your traditional Khorne Berzerkers. We've actually kit-patched a few of them out of Khorne Blood Warriors from Age of Sigmar, adding some backpacks and some shoulder pads, as well as commandeering some of the axes from that kit to add to the actual Khorne Berzerkers, because they're filled with Khornate little symbols and things like that. So if you like this set, feel free to take a quick peek at our Kit Bash video. You'll find it on the channel, and I'll link to it here. If you want to see how these guys get painted up, please feel free to stay tuned, and you will totally see how we arrived at this nice looking group of models here. Before you do that, please feel free to subscribe to the channel, because that helps us out a lot, and then you'll see our next Kit Bash videos that we do. Stay tuned, and we'll show you the painting video. This is going to be a painting video on our World Eaters Khorne Berzerkers here, and we've got them built out of Blood Warriors, we then kit bashed. We have a video on the channel showing that. Effectively, we've armed them with both a chainsword, which technically is one they came with, but it's full of Khorne iconery and stuff, so we kept that just the way it is. We added a chain blade, because quite frankly, Berzerkers are great with 2 melee weapons. The problem with pistols and chainswords is that when you're going to fire your pistols, they're going to remove models closer to you, and then you've got a longer charge to make. With blades and chain axes, what ends up happening is you can do all your attacks with a chain axe, get a free attack with the blade, and because you get to attack twice, both weapons are used in the double attack as opposed to pistols, which would only be used once. So that's why we like to arm them with both axes and chain blades. And we kept the ornate power axe, I guess you could call it, or thing. We're just going to call it a chain axe. And then we kept most of the model the same, adding a backpack, a shoulder pad, and cleaning up a little bit more Space Marine-y stuff. So all that's in the video that we did earlier. But now we're going to paint them. So this is our painting video. So the first step we did for these guys is we spray painted them with our Chaos Black base spray, and that's going to fill in the recesses, fill in the corners, and anything we miss as we're painting the over layers. It'll be dark and it'll blend in quite nicely. So for our first step, that's what we did. We did it for all of the models we have here. So now for our next step, what we're going to do is use the most obvious base paint in the world. We're going to use Khorne Red to do the base of all of the armor plates and boots and backpacks and everything else that's on our model. So we're just going to put the Khorne Red on all of the armor plates. We're going to use a nice watered down layer, like so. Don't worry if you make a mess. We are going to come back and do all of the highlights later. We may have watered this one down a bit much, so we'll clean that one up in a few minutes here. So clean that up a little tiny bit. I'm just going to do the other panels. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you make a mess here, because what we're aiming for is just to get the coverage we want. So we'll finish up these models. We'll meet back here in just a few minutes. This is our model now that we've finished the Khorne Red, and as you can see, all of the details have started to show up on the armor, as well as the legs, the arms. We did the backpack here. We left some of the trim open because we're just going to do that with either the chains or the gold trim, so we'll deal with those later. But as much as the bare armor plates and spaces we did all that with the Khorne Red. Each of the helmets on these guys are different, both the Berserker helmets as well as the Blood Warrior helmets. So they're all going to be individually done. This is what this one here looked like here. So in any case, we'll do the other models and we'll meet back here for the next color. Start on our metallic trim. So for that, we're going to start with some Balthazar Gold, and we're going to just, with our fine detail brush here, just start going over all of our trim. Now we could use Retributor Armor for this as well, but I like the reddish of the more bronzy color, just because it's going to help the Khorne red stand out, and we want these guys to be as blood colored as we can get. So that's what we're going to work with here. So we'll keep going with the trim, and we'll meet back here in a few minutes. So this is our model now that the Balthazar gold base layer is finished. So what we're going to do now is add some of the silver metallic. I'm going to use some lead belcher. And what we're going to do there is go over the rest of the axe, as well as the chainsword, as well as any of the chainmail armor, as well as the ones in the back, some that's hanging around from this, the vents, the tubes, and that stuff there. And we'll meet back here again, and we'll have a good base layer over our unit to kind of get an idea of where we're going to be from there. So this is our models now that we're finished with that. So our next step is going to be to add a shade to most of this. So we're going to take a little bit of Agrax Earth Shade, and what we're going to do is, with a directed shade, we're going to do all of the brass as well as some of the red armor, avoiding all of the metallic, all of the gray metal. So we'll do that now. So just like that. And we're going to add shade to our metallic components. So once that shade is dry, we're going to start our highlight layer. So we're going to take a little bit of Liberator Gold first and touch up over all the brass, lighting it back up to a gold base color. And we'll meet back here once that's all finished. So this is our unit now that we finished with the Liberator Gold. And as you can see, it's much brighter. This unit here is not done yet. So as you can see, the difference in shade between the original brass and the Liberator Gold is quite bright. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue with the units there and brighten them all up, and then we'll be back in a few more minutes. So now that we're finished with all of our gold, what we're going to do now is work on the red. So we're going to put a highlight layer of Evil Sun Scarlet, and we're just going to pick out the details on the red. And so for that, I'm just going to get just sort of an edge highlight, trim along the armor here, just like so, just to lighten it up a bit. A dry brush on the face, just to lighten that up a bit as well. Like so. Do a dry brush and edge highlight on all of these boots. Just like so. So we'll keep working on this, and we'll be back in a few minutes once our red is finished. So this is our unit now that we finished with that shade of red. And what we're going to do is put one final highlight on the red. We're going to take a little bit of Wild Rider red, and we're just going to hit the very high points here. So we're just going to take that highlight and just lightly catch the highest points here. that's about it for now. So we'll leave that be. We'll do the rest of them. We'll meet back here again in a moment. So now that we're finished that, and the red is now done, what we're going to do is come on another color, and I'm using a different model to show, because not all of them have it, but any of these holsters, or any satchels that they're holding according to, along their waist, and all of the belts that they have, we're going to take a little layer of Rhinox hide, a base, and we're going to detail that in there. Just like so. Just adding a little bit of brown belt there to the rest of the red, as well as getting the holster and such. So we'll do that on any models that have any accessories on their belts, any straps that are holding things in place, and we'll meet back here afterwards. So now that we've put our Rhinox hide down, what we're going to do is do a dry brush layer of Scrag Brown over the top of it. So on our original model, we do have some straps underneath the gloves, which are here, which is already touched with the Rhinox hide. So we're going to do that again with just a little bit of Scrag Brown here. Just to make that look a little bit more leathery. Same as this side right here. Just like that, and the same on the other side there. The original Space Marines have these holsters. So we're going to get that little dry brush as well. As well as that belt. Just like so. So we'll finish all the models. We'll be back here in a few more minutes. Now that our brown is finished, we're going to move on to some more details, such as this little skull that's hanging here. So any skulls, as well as any cloth areas, such as you would find right here, we're going to do all of those with a base of Rakarth flesh. So with just a little bit of that and a detailed little brush, we're just going to put the base coat on that little skull there. So we'll do that for all the models. We'll be back here in a few more minutes. So with our Rakarth flesh base finished, we're going to shade all of that now. So we're going to do the skulls, as well as any of the wrappings on the handle of the axes, or any of the knives that any of the units are holding. So for example, this knife here has a little handle there. So all of that shade we're going to do with Seraphim Sepia. And the only thing we won't be shading is any of the cloths here, because we're going to do that afterwards with a different color. But all of the knife hilts, as well as the skulls all throughout the models, will all be done with Seraphim Sepia. We'll just take a little bit of that and just shade that skull carefully. We don't want to add anything to the chainmail yet. We'll deal with that after. And then we're going to do the axe hilt as well. Just like so. So we'll do the rest of them. We'll meet back here in a few minutes. With our Seraphim Sepia shade finished, you can see that the details have started to show up on the brush, on the axe handle, as well as on the skulls. So what we're going to do now is shade the other things we hadn't done yet. So we're going to shade all of the metallics, the metal, the silver metal, the axes, the chain swords, any of the chainmail. We're also going to shade that cloth that's sitting out on the tabards. So all of that is going to get shaded with Newell oil. So just like so. We're just going to shade all of that metallics there. Try not to get it on the gold, but working your way around like so. A little bit down here in the chainmail, as well as the pieces of chain hanging from all of the shoulder pads, and then all of the pipeworks and vents and chainmails and so forth. So we'll do all that now. I'll meet back here when it's all finished. So now that our Newell oil has dried, we're going to start adding some lightening up back to the model. So we're going to start with the metallics here. And what we're going to do here is we're going to add a layer of iron breaker just to brighten up all those metals. So a little bit of iron breaker. Just going to brighten up those metallics just like so. Dry brushing that on there. So we'll finish our model. We'll be back here in a few minutes. So now that we're done with our metal, what we're going to do is start on the wrappings here on the axe handles. And what we're going to do with that is a little bit of pallid witch flesh, just to dry brush over the high layers. Just a dry brush on the axe handle here. We'll light up the wrappings while keeping the recesses shaded with the shade we did earlier. So just like so. Same on the front here. Just like that. We're going to do that for all of the tabards as well. So all of the cloths that they're wearing. So we'll do all those. We'll be back here in a few moments. This is what we look like now that we finished with our pallid witch flesh. As you can see, the handles of the axes are done, as well as the cloaks are done as well. And we added a little dry brush edge highlight of pallid witch flesh again there. So as you can see, we've got sort of this effect here where we dry brushed the high point and then edge highlighted just the edge itself. Now a few of the units also have skulls on them. He's got one on his standard here, as well as one hanging from his waist. So all of those are going to get a dry brush of Screaming Skull, just to brighten them up a little bit as well. So now that we're finished with that, we're going to do the eyes. We're going to take a little bit of Uriel yellow, and with a very fine point on our paintbrush, we're going to attempt to pick out those eyes in the model. Just like that. And do the same thing on the other side. As you get the, I just kind of brush the same spot and slowly move towards it till I just touch it. Just like that there. And they make some nice glowing eyes. So we'll do that for the other models and we'll be back. Effectively, our unit's now pretty much finished. The only thing left is the tufts on the back of the chainswords, and they can go pretty much any color you like. There's no real set color. I don't want to do them red, or I would have done them earlier. I do like them to stand out a little bit, so either blue or purple. Zeech or Slanesh, which kind of sucks for Khorne, but I did want a little bit of color on the models. So what I'll do is I'll probably do them purple and then lighten them up a little bit with a dry brush. So what we'll do is we will base them all with Nagaroth Night, and then we'll shade them, and then we'll do a dry brush over the top of something like Slaanesh Gray. So we'll do those now, and we'll be right back. So these here are our finished units, and as you can see, we based them with some sand, and then we added a clear coat of varnish over the top. The sword in the foreground has the purple color on it that we had planned on doing. So this is kind of how our finished completed units look. Now, if you like the way they turned out, if you're happy with the video, and if you found it helpful at all, please feel free to leave a like or leave a comment. We always love those. Or subscribe to the channel, which is also really great and really helps us out. So in any case, this is the end of this video. Please feel free to subscribe, and you'll see us in another painting video in the future when we do something else. All right, thank you for your time. You guys have a lovely day.